Hi, Charlotte. How are you?
Hi, Sue. Good, thanks. You?
Yeah, very good, very good. So why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do?
So, I'm a nutritionist and I specialize in working with women who are going through perimenopause and beyond, I guess. So, I've got an interest in women in midlife and hormones, anything to do with hormones as well.
It's interesting, isn't it, that you've kind of focused on a particular period for women. So are we change? Does a lot change that nutrition would impact? I mean, isn't menopause just about hormones? That's what people will ask, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think there's almost a myth around menopause that estrogen is the only thing we need to think about. And very much it's the star of the show, isn't it? It seems to get all the attention. And it's right to some degree, but we have to think about it in terms of the knock-on effects of our change in hormones. So, for example, estrogen, we have receptors all over our bodies from head to toe. So it would make sense that the symptoms are also really diverse. So it can be everything from, you know, your brain fog. We've all had a bit of meno brain, all the way down to your skin, your digestive system, and even your metabolism as well. So I think it's a really interesting area, I suppose, from a purely geeky point of view. But equally, it's an area of nutrition I feel that you can do a lot of good. And you can really
Mm.
help women, you can educate them, and also help them work on their health going through menopause, but also from a longevity point of view, how can we protect our health for the future as well?
Mm. I mean, I think when I went through that stage of life, I kind of, I didn't connect it to anything that was going on, particularly in my body. I just got on with menopause. I wasn't affected as, in the same way as lots of people. Although, maybe I was. There were things that I didn't sort of notice, it would have been better had I been conscious of them because then you can sort of address them, can't you? But
Yeah.
the whole when you were talking yesterday about gut health, and that is something that hadn't kind of connected, but that changes as well in menopause.
Yeah, and there's some really interesting research around gut health and what we call changes to the gut barrier. So, by gut barrier, we mean the lining of the digestive tract, and that's responsible for absorbing nutrients and keeping us really healthy. And if that changes, then we may experience more symptoms. So, it can be gut symptoms, so reflux, bloating, food sensitivities, changes to bowel habits. But then also the knock on effects of that, because if you're not absorbing your nutrients properly, you haven't got the right bacterial balance in your microbiome, then it's sort of creating this little storm, which can have quite far-reaching effects. So headaches, skin problems. So yeah, it's really interesting. But I don't think we necessarily think about our digestion in relation to menopause.
No.
And I think it's interesting what you say as well. I think everything about menopause and perimenopause is retrospective.
Mm.
Sort of look back and then you notice things, but when you're in the thick of it, the penny might not drop.
Mm.
And I had a surgical menopause, so I went from hormones one day to nothing overnight. So I had it was quite a I can't even think of the word. I can't think of the word I can say publicly. But yeah, it was just a great big train smash. It was, and I was very aware of the symptoms and very aware what was happening. But that's
Mm.
completely different, I think, to most
Mm.
women who have that transition through perimenopause, which is characterized by those fluctuations where things
Mm.
are just all over the place, really. Um,
Mm. I think that the other thing that you talk about is this food first philosophy, which I like, that be conscious of your foods. You want to talk a bit about that?
yeah, I mean, I think whatever your experience of menopause is, whether you decide to use HRT or other medications, or you go through it completely naturally. Um, Food plays a huge part in that. I think whatever we do, we can improve our experience of menopause if we're eating better. And by focusing on your diet first before jumping to the supplements, that's a much better way to support your health for now, but also in the future. And it's about developing those good habits. And we've talked about this before, but my pet hate is women who don't need a great diet, but think they can out supplement their diet.
Mm.
Think, well, as long as I take my supplements, I'm fine. Don't worry. I can drink as much coffee as I like. It's
Kind
fine.
of doesn't work that way, does it, actually?
If only.
Yeah. And the recipes that you've done for Elysium magazine, which are lovely, and you've got a range of things there, and then you're using MPowder within those, aren't you? So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what, how does that work? What do you think the benefit of that is?
So well, it's a couple of things, but I think mainly MPowder reinforces food first, and that's how I communicate it, especially to my clients, and some of the MPowder community I've had the pleasure of talking to. It's about building better habits, because MPowder is for building that foundation for your health. It's filling in the gaps, and it's given us the nuts and bolts of what we need to support our nutrition. And by incorporating the powders into food, yes, it builds those habits, but it doesn't feel like you're taking a supplement. You're sort of building good habits, you're building better nutrition. And I think that's the important point, really. And you can carry that on as well. And by incorporating the powders into smoothies, you're then thinking, well, what can go in my smoothie? So I'm going to put more greens in, dark berries, which are packed with antioxidants, herbs you can put in. The same with chia puddings, or different protein balls and flapjacks, and I mean, literally, I could go on and on and on, but I won't bore you. Um, but I just think that's what's special about using a powdered product. And it's also something that you can titrate, because a lot of the women that I talk to, they take supplements and they feel really, really sick
Right.
because there's too much of certain nutrients in there. We know things like zinc, if it's too high, can make you feel really, really sick. So, by using a powder, you can just start gently and build it
Mm.
up, which is a
Mm.
much better way of working.
Mm.
And I think over the years I've come to appreciate more and more that higher doses of supplements aren't necessarily better. More of something isn't better.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it's so easy to over supplement as well, especially if you're taking something for your joints, for your energy, for your sleep. Before you know it, you're probably taking
I know.
thousands.
I know it can get very expensive and also quite complicated because you're trying to work out all the different things that you
Yeah,
might take and vitamins. Yeah.
yeah,
So if there's something which you can take which has got good stuff for you all, uh,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
dosages worked out, and then you can gradually add it into
yeah,
your smoothies or whatever else, as you say.
yeah.
Perfect. Okay, well, what we need then is people to use your recipes and give us some feedback.
That'd be great.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, because if you get an idea of what people like, then you can come up with more to
Mm.
support them. But I think as well, it's having the confidence just to give things a go. I think when it comes to smoothie, a chia pot, and overnight oats, you're just putting in there what you actually like.
Mm.
But just it's that freedom and having the confidence just to give it a go as well.
Good. All right. Thanks, Charlotte. Talk
Thank
soon.
you.
All
Thanks.
right. Bye.